morning, everyone. It's great to be here at the Game Dev Summit. I want to thank Martin and Heli and everyone else who's part of the organizing team. Really happy to be here, and I'm happy that there is again a games development industry event in Sofia. There should be as many as possible in Eastern Europe because this is a region that I think has significant potential in the industry. And I'll be talking a little bit about that. And there's also a talk from my colleague from RGDA tomorrow about that. Today I'll be talking about game incubators and accelerators, how they function, and what are some things to keep in mind when working with such a program. So a few words about myself. My name is Catalin Butnariu. I've been working in games for a little over 12 years. Most of that time was spent in Gameloft, where I was leading the deployment division, it was called. And since 2015, I left and I've been doing a number of things. I joined a Romanian startup, which is called Amber. Amber is now actually the biggest Romanian independent games company. I co-founded the Carbon Incubator about 1 year ago. And I'm also involved in the Romanian Game Developers Association. I'm the president of this organization since beginning of 2016. Last but not least, I am through RGDA. I'm also one of the organizers of DevPlay, which is a games conference in Bucharest that we started last year, and we'll have a second edition later this year in September. So. Just to talk a little bit about our market, I guess you may have seen this report by Newzoo. So the games market is set to reach $109 billion in value this year. It's continuous growth, fast growth, almost 8% growth compared to last year, and it's estimated to reach something like $130 billion by 2020. And to put this in some context, and this is a comparison that I always like to make. In 2016, the games industry was about 3 times bigger than the box office movie industry, just to give an idea. So you can, if you want to brag about working in video games, tell that to the press whenever you have the opportunity. And so, but looking a bit further at the Eastern European market, so I think that there are a lot of things that have been happening in the last 2-3 years, and like I said, I think there's a lot of potential. A lot of companies starting to show up. For a lot of time, it's been an outsourcing area for big companies, but in the last few years, there has been a lot of activity. So if we look at the number of companies, you can see, I don't know if you can see it all the way from the back, so that big line on the left side is Poland with 300 companies. That they have a very healthy ecosystem for startups, and well, that shows. They also have a big company that has seen success, which also helps. And then other countries in the region are kind of hovering between 40 and 60 companies. If we look at employees, situation is a little bit different. It's actually Romania with the highest number, about 6,000 employees, and this is thanks to 3 multinational companies that are present there. Then Poland with 5,000, Belarus 4,000, again thanks to one very big company, and then other companies, other countries, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 people. But still, those are big numbers, and this should be we should be talking about this more often, and we should keep an eye on Eastern Europe because there are things happening here. Before going to the actual topic about incubators, I'm just trying to get a feel of how familiar you are with this topic. So, could you tell how many of you have actually worked with an incubator for Accelerator in the past? Anyone? Okay. And how many of you have considered or have done some research in this area? Okay, so a few hands. Game incubators and accelerators are entities that are meant to support an industry or a section of an industry, in our case, games. And they do that by providing certain resources, mentorship, supporting the business in becoming successful and in releasing successful products or services. For games, there are not that many such programs in the world. I would say there are relatively few. Generally speaking, I would say that the presence of a games incubator in a country indicates a certain level of maturity in that specific region. So I have some examples here of, I call them game support programs to try to find a name that would cover everything. But I included here incubators, accelerators, and some publishers. And I'll come back to this slide in a bit to go into a little bit in more detail. But you have, so just to list them, so we have Stugan, which is an incubator in Sweden. Sweden Game Arena, that's Sweden Game Arena there. I don't know if you can see it, black on black. It's obviously from Sweden, and this is an incubator backed by the Swedish government. NYU Game Center, an incubator New York. And then on the accelerator side, Game Founders is in Malaysia. It's based in Malaysia. Execution Labs was based in Montreal. It has closed last year. Reactor is a program from Seattle. And then on the publishing side, those are pretty global. So just some examples: Square Enix Collective, Wargaming Labs, and Rovio Stars. And obviously, there are a lot of publishers out there. I listed these because they work exclusively with third-party developers and usually indie developers. So, okay, how do these programs work, and what is the difference between incubator, accelerator, and how do they compare with publishers? So incubators, they help businesses grow. They are typically funded by the state or by universities. They work with companies from a very early stage, usually for a number of years, up to 3 years usually. They take a minority stake in the companies that they work with, and they provide some amount of funding, usually not a lot, but enough to get started, and of course a lot of mentorship and support and just everything that the company needs to survive in the beginning. Their network, the incubator's network, is essential in this regard in helping the companies grow. So if we go back to the examples, so Stugan and Sweden Game Arena are both backed by the Swedish government. The Swedish government is a very good example of best practices of what a country can do to support the games industry. And NYU is, the Game Center is obviously backed by the university, by NYU. Then accelerators are a little bit different. They tend to be focused a little bit more on the products and less on the companies. And they have fixed programs, usually 3 to 6 months long. They work with cohorts, so they take a number of companies, maybe once or twice a year. They also take a minority stake and they also tend to offer some amount of cash. Incubators do not usually take revenue share from the company's products or services. Accelerators may or may not do that, depending on each case. And yeah, coming back to the examples again, one thing that's important to note here is that these are, I mean, the way I put them in groups, sometimes the lines are a bit blurred, so it's not one entity may work a little bit as an incubator, a little bit as an accelerator, a little bit as a publisher. So for Execution Labs is a good example in that regard. So they actually started as an incubator, but they did work with cohorts and they did work with a fixed program. They also published the games for the studios that they work with, so it can be a bit mixed. Okay, good. Then publishers, they're different. So publishers get involved at a later stage. So if incubators start from the very beginning, accelerators usually require some kind of working demo or a vertical slice to assess the project. Publishers, especially these days, especially in mobile, in PC it can be a little bit different, but publishers tend to work at a late stage, so usually right before the release of the game. I've seen publishers who require that the game is in soft launch already on mobile to get involved. But they have the financial power to, and their expertise is on distribution and the promotion of the game. So their focus is strictly on the product and less on the companies, and because of that they work exclusively with the revenue share. So they don't take a stake in the companies, but they take some significant amount of revenues from the product they work with, usually starting from 50%. So obviously because they are fully private for-profit companies, they have a bottom line that they need to follow, and they tend to be more results-oriented. But this is something that everyone knows. So to try to conclude a little bit on how these programs work, incubators, accelerators, and publishers operate at different parts of the game development cycle, and even though there is some overlap, they have usually different objectives and focus. So if you are interested in working with an incubator or accelerator, there are some things that you should keep in mind. So first of all, it's important to figure out what you need, figure out what are the top skills of your core team, and what are the resources or skill sets that are missing, so you can check that against what the incubator or accelerator has to offer. So, and from that point, you can start a discussion and you can ask the things that you actually need. And you should not hesitate to actually ask those questions, because the purpose of the program is to help indie studios, and they should normally be very helpful in answering those questions. There are a few things that you should kind of always be getting when working with such a program. So, for example, money or access to money, especially if you're giving away a part of your company. I think it's normal that the program can offer some amount of cash, or if they don't offer straight cash, they can at least put you in front of some investors or angel investors or other funding programs that can help you out. And then you should check out the company's, the accelerator's network, and by network it means everything from mentors, alumni, the people they have access to, and try to understand how that network can help your game succeed. And again, you can ask those questions, and it's normal that they should be answering those. Goes without saying, I think that you should spend some time to examine the documentation and contracts they send. It's not that expensive to hire a lawyer, at least to consult a lawyer before signing a contract. It's usually worth the trouble. And very important, and probably the best indication of the success of a program is to talk with the studios that are part of the program and see how the incubator has actually helped them reach some success. And you can also check the. You can contact them directly, or you can check their website. You can check their games. You can see how the games have done. Even if they are not huge commercial successes, you should at least get an idea of the fact that the incubator or accelerator has given them all the chances to reach success. So I have a couple of case studies of games that have been through such programs, and where they started and where they are today, and how the programs have helped them. They are both Romanian games. So the first one is Black the Fall. This is a puzzle platformer with some communist references. Well, we've all been there, I guess. They started development in early 2014, and then they were picked up by Execution Labs. In 2015, Execution Labs flew the team to Canada. They spent about 3 months there, and the things they got from Execution Labs were so this is we asked the team to provide this information. And they said the first thing they listed is priceless business contacts, and that's their quote. So you can imagine how useful that was for them. And then, of course, some project and business planning, industry know-how, relationships in the industry, and meeting other developers and kind of sharing ideas. So they were basically part of this family of studios, let's say. And they also received some amount of funding. That helped them accelerate development, and this led in 2016 to signing a deal with the Square Enix Collective. And so their game will be published by Square Enix Collective. The release date is actually very soon. It's coming out on July 11th, if I remember correctly. You should check it out at least. It's coming out on Steam soon. And Square Enix Collective has obviously helped them with PR and marketing. They'll be handling all the distribution. They helped the team participate at a number of industry events. So they went to GDC, to E3, to Gamescom. And this is during the last year or so. So kind of preparing the press and the community for the release of the game. So fingers crossed for them. The second case study is Tapbusters, and this is a mobile tapper game. This one is actually part of the Carbon family, so it's one of our games. Development started in 2015 by a team of 3 people. They joined Carbon late last year, so November 2016. And the incubator helped them with providing some development resources, helping them on the PR and marketing side a little bit, working facilities, so they work on Carbon's premises, legal and financial counseling, And we also help them with the first soft launch and doing some campaigns and figuring out the KPIs and what we want to achieve further. And that worked well because just last month they signed a deal with a publisher that I cannot yet reveal, but it will be announced next month, and the game will be coming out in September. The exact date remains to be confirmed. The publisher again helps help with PR and marketing. They will be investing some funds for user acquisition, and they will lend some of their experience for live ops support. So that's the high-level overview of incubators and accelerators. There is, we have, at the end of the day tomorrow, we have another session. It's actually going to be a more open kind of seminar, and we will be going more hands-on on Carbon and our game. So if you're interested to learn more about Carbon, we'll wait for you guys tomorrow at the end of the last session of the day. Thank you.